What's up, tankers? Here we are with the patch notes for October 1st, coming with the new season tomorrow for Darkness Rising. Now, some of this stuff we went over the other day, like the article going over the new seasonal details, the returning map being Wide Park, and even some UI updates like the MVP screen. I didn't go over this, where they're changing their brand name logo to have this new font and massive modern armor to show that we are the modern armor branch of the World of Tanks franchise. And it's coming with a really cool orange skin. You know I love my orange. And it's actually a neat skin. I'm going to use this skin if they give us a lot of them. They say we will get one voucher, so not a lot. But I do like this skin and I will use it. We're also being changed from Peggy 7 to Peggy 12. If that has any implications, you guys can let me know. And then all these other UI updates like the Marks of Excellence filter in your garage now, all of these sub-menus for the tech trees and the commander tab, and most importantly, the tank stats page tanks filter. Thank you very much. This was something I was waiting for a long time. But something that they didn't tell us until today, which is amazing, is adding a premium AP ammo icon. So for the longest time, tanks like the Japanese tank destroyers that we have, and even things like the Andre the Giant and the AMX M454 using the 130mm, would show premium APCR when in reality they had premium AP rounds. And even things like the T100LT has the same issue. And that was all because we didn't have a premium AP ammo icon. So now those tanks with premium AP ammunition should actually show premium AP ammunition. So no more confusions and having to double check with PC's tanks.gg to even tell if tanks have premium AP or not. We just will now know in game like we should have. This took a long time too, for some reason. Another HUD element that we weren't shown is the updated alternate mechanic icons and a leading line indicator on the sides of your reticles will be much more visible, and this is intended to help you lead targets, but it doesn't say that it does. But if it doesn't dynamically change the length based on your shell speed, then this really isn't going to help you much besides just inherently knowing how much you should lead with the tank shell speed that you're using. Another update that we weren't told about until the patch notes is that auto siege transition is going to get a speed update. Most of the tanks used to enter siege mode at 15 kilometers an hour. Now they're going to do it 25 kilometer hours across the board. And that goes for the UDES 14 Alt 5, UDES 16, 15 16, T95E2, SW1, and the Wind of Arrakis. To me, personally, this isn't going to change much besides just a little bit more leeway in being able to back off quickly. But it's not going to change the random jumping and inconsistency that comes with the automatic siege mode, and they still refuse to acknowledge that and work on that. Instead, this is a slight touch-up that they might use as a, we have fixed your siege mode issues. You have not. This does not fix siege mode for me, since I know that the activation speed was not my issue personally. And here we are with the apparently final wave of World War II tank balances. And I did skim through these first before starting this video, and let's just say I think this is the worst balance update that they have done. And let's get into why. Let's just expand all. Firstly, starting with the UK, of course, we are, again, much like the other ones, touching up on our tier 1s and 2s that don't exist anymore. So hopefully, now that I believe we've gone through all the nations, this means that in the next season for Christmas, their big gift to us is bringing back tier 1s and 2s, and any of those split or branching off lines like the Panzer 38NA and the Grant that they got rid of. And they do buff the Grant here as well, and we will get to that. But you can see just buffs all across the board to many things: reload times, horsepowers, aim times, all that stuff. If you really want to get into the nitty gritty of these tier 1s and 2s, you can pause on them and check them out. But overall, I'm just going to point out that there are buffs here to the Vickers Medium Mark 1. Onto tier 2, the Universal Carrier 2-pounder is also getting buffs in their reload times. and their shot dispersion penalties. The Cruiser Mark I is getting buffs to its 2-pounder reload, but nerfs to its 40mm pom-pom. The M2 is getting some changes as well, some buffs to a weird rotation speed of 36.883721 to a flat 40. And you'll actually see numbers like this all throughout this, which is pretty weird. Like its rotation here at 31.186047 to a flat 42. And you might notice that even though the accuracy is getting buffed and the aim time, the reload is going down by quite a bit, and the clip size is also getting cut in half. And I believe this is one of those tanks, if you remember in the last update, they changed how low-tier autocannons work, those burst fire guns, and there is a separate section showing which vehicles got changed for that, just for the UK branch, and we will get to that, and I believe the M2 is on that list. The Cruiser Mark III is getting similar changes, and it has some of the same guns you've seen before with its pom-pom and whatnot. And again, the 15mm machine gun, which is funny, getting similar changes. And the Lloyd gun carriage, actually an artillery, getting an aim time nerf, but a rotation speed buff. And you'll see more artillery as we go through this list, not getting nerfs. So that one's interesting to see. We're on to tier 3. Vickers Medium Mark III, getting aim time and reload buffs. This is a good tank, I will be honest. And Stuart 1-4, similar things. Sexton 2, getting a reload buff. Why? Who knows? With its 18-pounder, though, it's getting a huge accuracy buff. But I'm pretty sure if you're going to play the Sexton 2, you're going to use the 25-pounder. So, yay, artillery buffs, especially low-tier artillery buffs. That's cool, isn't it? Tier 4 Covenator. Its 40mm pom-pom is actually getting buffs to its accuracy and reload time, and mainly accuracy on its 76mm for its top gun. The Electo is actually getting buffs as well to its accuracy on both of its guns, and it's getting 15 more HP, which you'll see some more HP buffs in this that are a bit questionable, but it is what it is. Grant more HP, still no multi-turret support on the Grant, if I'm not mistaken, which is quite annoying because I do remember asking for it back when Pingod was still at the company, and he said that yes, the Grant would get it. Speaking of a tank that does have multi-turret support, the Churchill 1 is having its stock 2-pounder gun removed, and its howitzer gun getting an accuracy buff, but that's not the gun you use. You use the 75mm, if I'm not mistaken. So that one, if you choose to use the derp, you now have better accuracy. Sherman 3, lots of buffs on this one, but that's because it has lots of guns. Some camo buffs on it, but most importantly, reload times across the board. The Archer is getting rotational speeds and an accuracy and aim time buff. And here's the Crusader with some concealment changes, and most importantly, 30 more HP on a tier 5 light tank. And its howitzer is also getting an accuracy buff, but you're not going to use the howitzer on the Crusader, I promise you. Here's another artillery getting buffs to its accuracy, to its view ranges, because artillery, wants to spot, right? And some horsepower on its first engine. I'm not sure if it has another one, but it does say removed engines, buffs, yippee. Sherman Firefly, accuracy and reload and aim times to its guns on various turrets. And then, of course, the entire line of artillery for Britain is seemingly getting buffs. The dreaded Burt on its 25-pounder gun is getting a reload buff by half a second and some accuracy, as well as 30 more meters view range, which, yippee. But don't worry, as you can see here, this is one of the few artillery pieces that have an actual turret 1 and turret 2. So the 25-pounder buffs may seem interesting or annoying, but this is actually the stock gun on the stock turret getting a buff, while you're going to upgrade to the second turret. And on the second turret, you're going to actually use a 4.5-inch howitzer instead. So luckily, the top gun hasn't changed, but that is still a artillery buff. Again, view range is very interesting to give artillery. Churchill 7 is getting accuracy buffs across the board and some rotational speed buffs, which is nice to see. Tier 7 Comet is getting, again, accuracy buffs across the board and also rotational speeds. Onto Tier 8 is the AT-15, which is getting some terrain resistances. The Carnarvon is actually getting a 0.2 second reload buff on its top gun on its top turret, which is the most important thing here, as well as 6 more rotation speed on its hull, which is also very helpful for the heavy tank. Again, artillery, yippee, is getting reload buffs and, again, 20 meters view range. Why we are giving them view range, I have no clue. Centurion Mark 1 is getting a lot of buffs across the board as well. Most importantly, though, on its top gun is getting a 0.4 second reload buff. Onto Tier 9, we have one, and that is the BL 5.5-inch gun on the Conway is getting a 0.4 second reload buff. It's also getting 4 more rotation speed on its second chassis, and that'll be nice. Now on to Tier 10, we have some interesting things here, like a buff to the Death Star, 2 more rotation speeds, some better shot dispersion penalties, and a half a second reload. Also better shot dispersion penalties during rotation, which these 2 things with a long reload, whatever. But we're buffing the reload, so 0.5 may not seem like a lot when you're starting from 28 and only going down to 27.5, but it's just another case of 183 treatment, getting things that they don't deserve, and I question this buff entirely, what was really the purpose behind it. This just still continues to baffle the mind that 183s continuously get buffed. Moving on to the 215B, not 183, we have a 0.05 reload time buff to its 120mm L1A1 gun, as well as a 0.02 base accuracy buff, so it is below 0.3 base accuracy on a heavy tank, which is very interesting because, you know, something like the Real has 0.27, so even though we have perks in the game that give you 10% accuracy, we are still making accuracy very high in the game, and I guess they're trying to make this gun a little bit more enticing, but I still, after this buff, don't think the 215B is going to be the best of the 3. You know, you have the Chieftain, which is very, very good, and the Super Conch, which is very reliable, and then you have the 215B, which, to me personally, needs an upper plate buff. Moving on from that, though, we have the questionable change of the entire British tech tree. Yes, the Death Star got buffed, but the Manticore is getting nerfed. Who saw that coming? Not me. We're lowering its turret rotation speed by 2 and its view range by 10, which is quite absurd. At the same time that we're doing that, we're making its accuracy even worse, which it already has a 0.38 accuracy for 105mm on a light tank, which is pretty bad now that it's going to be 0.4. This, I genuinely don't know why. I don't know why we're making the Manticore 390 meters view range. Because to me, all this does is cement the 100 LT as the better light tank. Yes, they have different caliber guns and different, you know, alpha damages, but something that the Manticore had over the 100 LT was obviously the view range, much like all the other light tanks. And now putting it at the same with the 100 LT just makes it feel like, well, yeah, the Manticore still has good camo, but I mean, I don't think this was necessary. Who's playing the Manticore and going, man, this thing is overpowered? You know, who's thinking that the Manticore needs a nerf? Definitely wasn't me. So that wasn't the first nerf of the balance pass, was it? No, but it's the first tier 10 nerf that is questionable. And I may be mistaken, but if I remember correctly, skimming through this is the only tier 10 nerf. So do with that what you will. This time around, they did make a separate section for the premium tanks. Here we're starting with tier 4s, accuracy and reload buffs to the Vanquisher and the Sentinel, which is, the Vanquisher is a skin Sentinel. Tier 5, we have the Defiance Matilda getting a view range buff by 20 and some accuracy and reload buffs. The Frostbite Grizzly is getting a health buff by 20 and some penetration love in its standard round by 5. And most importantly, though, a point 0.4 accuracy value from a 0.46. So that's a pretty nice buff. Obviously, the Unskinned Sherman is getting the same love, and the Matilda Black Prince is actually getting more ammo for its 6-pounder gun from 55 to 70. The Tier 6 Sentinel AC4, skinned and unskinned, are also getting buffs by their accuracy and reload times. And the Tier 7 FV201 A45 and its black version are getting some aim time and shot dispersion penalty buffs, as well as a somewhat important rotation speed. Being at 30, though, was already good enough. Now it's going to 32. Tier 8, the Carnarvon Action X, and of course the Paladin. These before got insane reload buffs when they were already insanely fast shooters, and now they're getting some rotation speeds as well, but on its gun, specifically shot dispersion penalties during rotation. So just makes them easier to shoot on the move. The HMH Burt, oh boy, here we are. Another artillery, and this time a premium, getting a 40-meter view range buff, some HP values, and you will see 2 HP values here, one for its hull and one for its turret. But the turret is the only one you have to worry about, as that's the actual HP value of the tank now, and now it will be 25 HP more. Again, I never like seeing artillery buffs after Artillery 2.0. I don't think any of this is necessary, especially the V-range buffs that they're giving the entire line. Artillery should be blind and have to rely on the team to spot for them, and if you get outspotted by an enemy tank, well, tough luck. You know, your position's compromised, you were either in a bad position or your team lost the flank and you didn't move. This is, like, it's still not the best view range, but once we're getting into tier 8 things like this, like 360 view range is matching heavy tanks, right? And I don't think it should do that, so... Ugh. Despise the artillery buffs. Centennial T95. Love this tank, by the way. Interesting that this is just the Centennial version, as... Usually with skin tanks, you see their counterpart, and the Centennial does have an unskinned version, but only the Centennial is getting a rotation speed buff and a shot dispersion penalty by quite a bit during rotation. I don't know if the unskinned already had this change implemented or not, or if they want the Centennial. Actually, that probably is the case, since the Centennial has sandbags. I know that it lowered its rotation speeds and other things like that because it was heavier. So this might be just matching it with the unskinned version because they forget that they give it sandbag-based armor. Typical move, forgetting things. But either way, moving on to the Senlac, which is a tank that I love. It is getting a reload and aim time buff, as well as a rotation speed buff, which is pretty nice. This reload buff does not affect its grenades, though. As you can see, this is just the 5.5 to 5.3. Unless the grenades work on a percentage-based value of its standard reload, this does not affect that. And I'm not sure if it does work on a percentage-based value or not. But, and of course, the Becky Lynch version also gets that change. HMH Huntsman Centurion is getting a reload buff, I believe, again. If I'm not mistaken, this was already given a reload buff from 8 to 7.5, and now it's going from 7.5 to 7.1. So, interesting. Another tank they give away for free quite consistently, and we just had it in the heavy metal season. If you chose Motorhead, I think it was. So yeah, obviously tanks that they give away for free and that everyone plays, you see those get buffed quite consistently, and you will see that again further down the list, especially when we get to the Russians. But here we are. This is what I was saying with the UK low tier burst gun damage or gun changes. You have the light Mark 6C, which I believe is the Steadfast. Here it is. Cruiser Mark II, Cruiser Mark IV. It doesn't say the M2 here, but yeah, well, interesting. And it's also interesting that the 40mm pom-poms, their reload times are adjusted here, but they weren't adjusted up at the top. Anyway, moving on to the Great US of A, we have, again, the tier 1s. We're starting with the Cunningham. Interestingly, the other tier 1's not on this list, which, I mean, it's a great tier 1, so it doesn't need it, but the 37mm Browning semi-auto gun is going from 7.5 to 5.1 seconds. That's pretty cool. Tier 2, T2 tank, lots of changes, some HP, most importantly, for low tiers, and of course, just accuracy reload, clip sizes on some guns with the reload changes as well. M2 Light, many changes here as well. Again, if you care about these low tiers this much, you can pause here and read them yourselves, but there's a lot to get through, and so seeing all these changes is quite daunting to just sit here and read through them all. Tier 3, T18 HMC, which used to be a tank destroyer, but it is now an artillery, so here we are with an artillery buff, 0.3-second reload buff, and 10 more ammunition. Yay, low tier artillery buffs. T56 GMC, which used to be an artillery and is now a tank destroyer, is getting aim time and accuracy on its top gun, as well as 10 more meters view range. Okay. M3 Stuart, also many changes. Most importantly, 10 meters view range on its second turret. This was a tier 3, right? Yeah, this is a tier 3, so 340 meters view range is pretty good for it. Tier 4, T40, also getting view range by 40 meters, a 40 meters view range buff, and 10 more HP to max it out at 400, as well as just accuracy and even some reload times on most of its guns and all of its guns. M5 Stuart is getting a lot of changes as well. On its second turret, you're getting 70 more HP, as well as 10 more meters view range, going to 380, which is pretty good, as well as some reload and accuracy and aim time buffs. Intraclip speed by 0.07. M3 Lee, we all love the M3 Lee, don't we? If you say you don't, what is wrong with you? Its secondary gun is actually getting an accuracy buff by very little, but its main gun is getting a few tunings as well, and its view range is going up by 10. For tier 5, we have the M10 Wolverine, which is getting a reload buff to its 3-inch AT gun, which is not its top gun, but instead its stock gun. So, oh well. T67, interesting tank, is actually getting a nerf to its view range and a nerf to its reload and aim time on its 76mm gun, as well as aim time on its 57mm gun. So, interesting little jab at the very pub stompy T67. T1 Heavy Tank is getting some changes to its guns for its reload, accuracy, and aim time on its 3-inch gun, and on its 76mm top gun, just an accuracy buff. The M7, which is the cutest little guy, is getting some reload, accuracy, and aim time buffs as well to many of its guns. And the M4 Sherman is getting also similar treatment, reload and accuracy to its 75 and 76mm guns on its top turret. And on to tier 6, another Sherman, the EZ8, is getting similar changes to its 75, 76, and top 76mm guns to accuracy, aim time, and even reload on its first 76mm gun. M36 Jackson, also similar changes, but also view range, going from 370 to 380. Probably the most important thing on a tank destroyer, being able to spot for itself if need be. 10 more meters view range at tier 6 is a huge improvement. Its 90mm gun is also getting a substantial reload buff from 8 to 7.2. T37 getting horsepower on its first engine by 50, on its second turret with its two 76mm guns, some reload time. T21 only has one turret, so even though you see turret 1, there is no turret 2, so this is its top turret, is going from 380 to 390 view range, which is quite substantial, and its 76mm gun is getting a big half-a-second reload buff, as well as some accuracy and aim time buffs. On to tier 7 with the T71DA. This is a tank with only one turret yet again, but this 76mm M1A2L is its stock gun, not its top gun. And so going from a 12 to a 10-second reload, yes, the stock gun does have better DPM now, and it will have way better DPM during the update, but you sacrifice standard pen, standard shell speed by quite a bit, and 35 alpha damage to have that better DPM, so it is a trade-off. But it was very interesting to see that they're buffing its stock reload time. It's also getting some horsepower engine buffs, which this 420 to 470 horsepower engine buff will actually make it slightly better than the Lycan T71, who shared the same top engine horsepower speed. And no, the Lycan doesn't get a buff down in the premium section. T71 CMCD getting a top speed increase, as well as, again, I believe there's only one turn on this thing, so the accuracy buffs you see here are its top accuracies, as well as the same engine changes. The T20 is getting many changes to all of its guns on its top turret, all just being accuracy and aim time. It's also getting a rotation speed buff and view range on its stock turret, but again, top turret's what matters, so doesn't get it there. T25-2 is getting a spotting range buff to 400, which is different to view range. I'm going to say no, it's not. This is just weird wording, but 400 meters view range on a tier 7 tank destroyer is quite absurd. It was already good with 380. And yes, this is the stock, or the top turret, sorry. The stock turret is going to 390. So this is interesting to see. This T25-2 is a great tank and one of my favorites at tier 7 for tank destroyers. And I already liked it. So I might play it again. I already have it 3 marks, but I might give it another go with 20 more meters view range and even some armor panel upgrades. I don't know. It says panel 1, 75 to 127. Maybe this is its mantlet because it's under the guns specifically, but you know, that's also pretty good. But reload and aim time as well, and it's 90 mils. Some pretty substantial reload and aim times, or not aim time, sorry, accuracy. Um, T25-2 is already a great tank. There's a lot of instances of that where great tanks are on this list getting buffs that, like, obviously they don't need it, right? But you know, some will say, oh well, we'll take it, right? 400 meters view range is quite absurd, though. I will say. T25. I mean, it's not uncommon though. I'll be honest, it's not uncommon. Germans have some pretty good view ranges, and it's on its low tier tank destroyers, but you know, people have problems with tank destroyers, as we even stated in the season pass video. So for tank destroyers to be able to spot for themselves reliably is one of the biggest issues for me personally. For them taking a step out of their role and being able to do other things that they shouldn't. Anyway, T25AT is actually getting an armor upgrade on panel 1 and panel 2. If you don't know what those are, well, when the update comes out, just check what panel is now 100 millimeters and you'll know, and what panel is now 88 millimeters and you'll know. If these are the sloped parts, that is a substantial armor buff, and there's even some on the turret here under the gun specifically, so it might be a mantlet buff, but yes, with the guns, you are getting reload and accuracy on the 105, and on the 90s, you're getting some reload times. Moving on to tier 8, we have the T28 prototype, which is also getting some armor panel buffs. It's 90 millimeters getting a reload and accuracy buff. It's 105 millimeters getting an accuracy buff, and it's 120 millimeter may seem to be getting a reload nerf, but that's because it's going to 420 alpha damage. And this is something you're going to see on these American tanks, is that we are giving them 420 alpha. This is happening. And personally, I'm going to say, not a fan. I'm not a fan of what we're doing here. And you'll see it a lot more here. Here you are with the T28 going to 420 alpha damage. And yes, it is getting an even more substantial reload nerf. But, you know, this is 420 alpha now. So, M41 Walker Bulldog getting a horsepower engine on its engine 1. If it has an engine 2, that's not really a big deal. Turret 2 going to 1200 HP. Yippee! Light tanks with HP. Both of its 76mm guns are getting accuracy and reload buffs as well. T67 on its 76mm, it's getting a reload nerf, but that's because its clip size is going from 5 to 6. Also, aim time and accuracy buffs. It's 90mm getting a reload buff as well, with accuracy and aim time too. The M26 Pershing, the tank that I needed to get buffed the most, is getting some hull rotation speeds. Its 90mm on its stock turret and upgraded turret are getting some reload buffs, accuracy and aim time, and same thing with its top turret. Now with its top turret and its top gun, it does have better reload than the Pershing with rockets that we have added to the game, but only by 0.1 second better reload. And that's what I was hoping for. That's what I was wanting to see, is that its 90mm top gun was going to get a better reload time. Its stock gun still gets an insanely better reload time, but again, you sacrifice standard penetration for that. Which, I mean, now that makes its DPM even better if you're going to use it. But this is what I wanted to see. The Pershing was the only tank I wanted to see on this list the most. So glad to see it here. Other than that, let's get back into the more interesting buffs that they've decided to do, like to the T95, making it 420 on its 120 millimeter, and that's it. Where's the HP buff for the T95? We're gonna give light tanks more HP, but we're not gonna give this thing 1950. What are we doing? Hell, give it 1850 and I'll be happy, right? Sitting at 1750 is just quite sad, honestly. Give the T95 more HP, please, please. Moving on to the T30, some armor panel buffs. Wherever panel 12 is, you now have quite a substantial amount more armor. And again, it's 120 millimeters going to 420 alpha, but mainly its big 155 millimeter gun is getting quite a substantial 1.3 second reload buff. Onto the M46 patent. Most of its 90 mils are getting the same treatment, and its 105 is actually just getting an accuracy buff on its turrets. The M103, yes, the M103 is going to 420 alpha damage. Oh boy, what does that mean? That means the T110E5 is as well, isn't it? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. On its second turret, under its 120 millimeter gun, they list armor panels, and I'm hoping that is its mantlet, because its mantlet has been pennable for quite some time. 152 millimeters to 190, 180, 140, and 200 and 200 in places. Other than that, its reload buff is getting nerfed, but its aim time is getting buffed. But again, 420 alpha now. Woo! Interestingly, on its stock 120 millimeter, they kept it as 400 alpha damage. So there is that. But yes, let's get on to that tier 10. And here we are with more light tank HP updates. From 1600 to 1700, this is the tank that I thought if we were going to do a 1700 HP light tank, it should be the Sheridan and the WZ, not the Panzerwagon. But the Panzerwagon got it first, and now the Sheridan now shares that. It also got a turret rotation speed buff, and on its 105 millimeter gun, a 0.3 second reload time buff, a 0.02 accuracy buff, and a 0.1 second aim time buff. Its 152 millimeter derp gun also got a reload buff, accuracy, and aim time buff. Accuracy unneeded. I will never understand why we keep buffing derp guns, especially in the era of 6.0, where we literally gave everyone a steady aim 10% accuracy buff for using that on your commanders. But here we are. Your derp guns already hit quite consistently, at least in my experience, with the T49, back when I grinded out the Sheridan. So, unnecessary in my eyes. What also is unnecessary is the M4A5 patent going to 2050 HP. That puts it on par with the E50M, but you're not going to see the E50M get any more HP, and that's because they hate the Germans. That's a running joke, and I don't mean that they actually do, but, you know, if you believe in that conspiracy, well, they don't give you any evidence not to believe it, right? Especially since these 120 millimeters you're seeing going to 420 does not include the 120 millimeter on the new German tank destroyer coming out on Tuesday. That's going to 400 with a DPM less than 2500. So ha ha ha. I won't be surprised though if you see that German tank become 420 alpha in the future. Anyway, that's speculation on buffs happening in the future. These are buffs happening now. I don't like this personally. I've been advocating for HP to go down, like the Avery to be 2000 instead of 2100, the Iron Arnie to be 2000 instead of 2100, the E6 to be 2000 instead of 2150. But this isn't the only medium you're going to see get an HP buff here. So, yay! We're ruining conventions. Poor Rhino stays at 2000, Lamau. But it's also getting, I believe, another reload buff. The patent was buffed, not last season, but the season before, I think, to get camo, and I'm pretty sure it got a reload buff, and then here we are, going down to 8.2, because, yeah, also accuracy and aim time. All right, moving on to the T57 Heavy. It's 120 millimeters, actually getting an intra-clip nerf, an accuracy and aim time buff, and you may see the reload nerf, but it's because it's going to 420 alpha damage. That changes its clip potential from 1600 to 1680, which just helps it low rolling, right? That's all it does. I don't like these 120 millimeter to 420 alpha damage changes for the Americans. I don't think it fits. I don't like it. And of course, you're going to see here with the T110E5. Yup. The T110E5 going to 420 alpha damage, gets a reload nerf to compensate, but also an accuracy buff. And most importantly, what? What? From 2200 HP to 24? What are you doing? What's going on? We have damage reduction in the game, right? And I've always advocated that we get rid of that. We put HP equipment in the game. So if you want more HP, you have to spec into it. And we're just giving away HP like it's nothing. Light tanks are getting increasingly more HP. The medium HP cap is going above 2000. Where the E50M used to be like the outlier at 2050. And now there's 3 tanks. Make it 4 in a second when we get to the premiums. At 2100 or above. And here we are, and we're like, oh, mediums are encroaching upon the 2200 HP, so let's bump it at 2400. We just buffed the 113. Well, I can't say we just buffed, but we buffed the 114 to 2450, and that felt like important. And this one just feels negligent, right? Like, is it just me? Is it just me? It's probably just me. I don't feel like the E5 needed this. Well, I'm definitely going to play the E5, though. I love the E5. I've always loved the E5, and they continue to buff it in ways that I'm like, okay, sure. I'm also going to guess the reason they made this on par with the IS-7 is because that cupola people don't like, and so they're like, okay, well, here you go, just have HP to compensate. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of this. It's a buff. I shouldn't be against it, right? But I just feel like we're ruining identities and conventions that we've had in the game for a long time. And that's what most of the premiums being overtuned do. And this is the consequence of that, right? We overbuff things, we release overbuffed things, and instead of pulling back, we push forward. And personally, to me, I don't think it makes for a better game. I think this is odd. If we had the HP equipment and I saw someone running 2400 HP E5s, I wouldn't complain then because they're wasting an equipment slot, and I can visually tell they have a piece of equipment on that's going to make it harder for me to kill them. Whereas damage reduction, you can't tell unless you low roll them multiple times, or you even hit lower than your minus 20%. The lowest damage possible roll, but I might be harping on it too much. Obviously you guys can disagree with me, but I think it's a step in a weird direction. And personally, I really don't think the 420 alpha damage fits the Americans very much. I liked their quick 400 alpha damage shots, right? I liked that. If anything, people were asking for the Kronvan to go to its 440 alpha damage 3-round autoloader that PC gave it. And if you're not going to do that, instead of making the T57 heavy the 420 alpha 4-round, 120 millimeter autoloader, you could have done that to the Kronvan, and I would have been much more supporting of it. But anyway, odd changes. Let's move on to the premiums. Tier 3 HMC, sorry, Tier 2 T3. I didn't even know this was a premium tank. Because it's not, right? Yeah, this isn't a premium tank. This is a Tier 2 tank destroyer, not a premium tank. So this shouldn't be in this section. It's just another tech tree tank getting accuracy, aim time, even some penetration values on its AP under the 37 millimeter. This is bad listing, unless this is somehow a gun. I don't think it is. Anyway, that's in the wrong list. T2 light tank, substantial view range buff by 40 to Tier 2 though. Combat cars, all of them getting the same stuff. 10 more max ammo, clip size going down, reload time going down, view range going up, yada yada. We're going to scroll past all these combat cars because they're all getting the same treatment. Tier 3, the Convert medium tank T3. This was a previous autocannon change. It's also getting a further reload buff after it, and radio range. MTLS 1G14, similar treatment. Its fire rate's going up though, and its standard penetration is as well. And of course the same with the Blitzen. Moving on to tier 5, this is a tank I actually have to 3 mark, so seeing that it's getting a reload buff by 0.41 is pretty good, and an accuracy buff by 0.02. Whole rotation speed as well going up. So hopefully this is going to make 3 marking a little bit more enjoyable, as well as the Ripper, the same tank, getting the same treatment. M4 improved is getting reload accuracy and aim time. Substantial reload buff there. Tier 8, we move on to the Roswell, which is also becoming 420 damage. So this is a tank that was going to be part of my Halloween review list. Now I'm going to have to re-get some gameplay for it at 420 alpha damage because it just got changed. Yippee, TS5 also going to 420 alpha. Same thing with the Bone Shaker variant. T92 getting some horsepower upgrades as well as reload accuracy and aim time. Same with its Falcon variant. Chrysler K getting HP increase from 1500 to 1600. Very interesting. It's a very strong tank. I don't think it needs it. Reload and accuracy as well. Again, same thing with its HMH version. Deathstalker M46 patent getting reload, aim time, and accuracy, as well as its KR version. T42 getting an HP increase to 1450, a reload time buff from 9.1 to 8.6, and a standard pen buff from 208 to 212. This is a 280 alpha 90mm if I'm not mistaken, so that buff is actually quite substantial. And I'm going to give this one a go. I'm trying to remember which tanks got buffed that I want to try out. I'm definitely going to play the E5. Definitely going to have to play my Roswell. Definitely want to try out the T42. Because that is a substantial reload buff for a 280 alpha 90mm. On with tier 9, we have the AE phase 1, also getting the 420 alpha treatment. Same with the TS60, which I commended them for having 400 alpha damage instead of 420 like the AAT60, but here we are. 9.6, I'm pretty sure is the same reload as the AAT60, so they just made it basically on par with the AAT60 with 420 alpha damage. Another tank I'm probably going to try out. Double Tap, I don't have this one, but its HP is going to 1800. That's nice to see. Its reload time is getting buffed to 7.4 from 8, and its standard shell speed is going up by 35. Its double shot cooldown time is actually getting buffed as well, so if you double shot, you only have 2.5 seconds of a cooldown before you can start the reloads of your guns. And here we go to tier 10. Yep. When I said earlier that 4 now, tier 10 medium tanks have 2100 HP or more, this is what I meant. The M4A2 T54E2, which is the 120mm patent, is going from 400 to 420 alpha damage. And also from 2000 HP to 2100 HP. Its armor is also getting buffed on panel 2 and 17 to 250 and 177. It's also getting 6 more rounds of ammunition. And let's do the math real quick of its DPM value. Right now its DPM is above 3000 if I'm not mistaken. And it is 3000. Now with the 2-second reload nerf but the 20 more alpha damage, it's going to go from 3000 DPM to 3073 DPM. Goodness, man. Goodness. That's quite absurd. Yeah, well, that's that. To the T58 Heavy, it's getting an aim time buff, as well as a turret rotation speed buff and a whole rotation speed buff. MBTB is already a 420 alpha 120mm American tank, right? But they decided that wasn't enough. It's going from 420 alpha damage to 430. What are we doing? And they're giving it the 420 meters view range that we decided not to give it from PC, but here it is. 420 meters view range, 430 alpha damage, and a full 1-second reload buff. As well as 0.3 aim time, so now your aim time is 2. What? So the DPM, if we do this again, if we pull this up again, the DPM used to be pretty bad. And that was because, well, initially they were probably afraid of 420 Alpha tanks, except for their AET-60 that they made. Um, and so they gave it 440 Alpha damage reload value, basically, right? This 10.9, I believe, when I made the review, was 0.1 seconds off of the Valor, which is 440 Alpha 120 millimeter. I'd be interesting if they brought down the Valor to 420 Alpha damage instead of it being a 440 Alpha 120 millimeter. That I wouldn't mind seeing. But yeah, with this reload and Alpha value, it had a 2300 DPM. Now, with a full second off of the reload time and 10 more Alpha, it goes from 2300 to, get the value right here, times 430, 26. So 300 more DPM while hitting even harder than I believe it should in the first place. As a 120 American millimeter gun, it should be 400 Alpha damage. But here we are. 420 V range on a heavy tank. This is not a medium. So this is another tank I'm going to have to play, maybe make an updated review on. I'm not sure. But moving on to the last nation in the buffs list, we have the USSR, which the MS-1 is getting a buff, of course. The BT-2 is getting a buff. Again, we're going to just hopefully scroll through these low tiers. The AT-1 is a tank destroyer getting a buff, a 30-meter V-range buff as well. I'm going to just try and get through these a lot quicker than we did the other ones and just point out little things that are substantial, you know, like horsepower. T60, everything's reload and aim time. Here's more of those 0.883721, 0.418605. Tier 3 SU-76M, it's 57 millimeter, which if you see it says 76, is not its top gun, is getting accuracy. Oh well. BT7, reload, burst fire removed, accuracy and reload time, stuff like that. SU-26 is, I believe, an artillery. So cool, more artillery buffs. T70 getting a health nerf, interestingly enough. Tier 4 SU5, another artillery, is getting HP. Reload nerf on its 152 millimeter at least, so that's good to see. But accuracy and aim or accuracy and reload on everything else, as well as horsepower. SU-85B, accuracy aim time on guns that aren't its top, so who cares? T80, reload accuracy aim time, V range by 15. Interesting. A20, pretty sure this is a tank a lot of people use. It's 76 millimeters, getting an accuracy or an aim time and reload buff. T28, not to be mistaken with the Tier 8 American tank destroyer. This is that Tier 4 pub stomper, getting 50 more HP, as well as accuracy, aim time, reloads on its guns. Tier 5 artillery, getting accuracy and reload on its 152 millimeter, as well as 20 more HP. T34 getting an HP upgrade. T34-85 also getting an HP upgrade, and with its DERP 122, some aim time and accuracy buffs, and it's with its 76, which is not its top gun, some reload and accuracy. SU-8, another artillery, getting aiming time, reload time, accuracy on a 122. I don't believe this would be its top gun since the Tier 5 has a 152. This is a Tier 6 and it has a 122. MT25 only has one turret, doesn't get a turret upgrade, so this is a upgrade to its actual view range to 380, as well as all of its guns getting aim time, accuracy, even the 57 getting a reload, aim time, then as well as the 76 getting a reload. Tier 7, T43, some terrain resistances, and both of its 122s getting accuracy and aim time. The SU-152 getting some aim time and reload on its 122s, but not its 152, so not many changes there. IS getting some HP increases on its first turret and its second turret by 50. Its 85mm getting some reload accuracy and aim time, but its 100mm getting some reload and accuracy as well. Nothing on its 122. Tier 8, we got the Object 416 getting an HP increase as well by also 50. And on its 100 millimeter on its top gun or its top turret, an accuracy buff. IS-3 getting a reload buff to its 122 BL9. Also, its turret 2, so its top turret, is getting 20 meters more view range. That one's interesting. SU-101 accuracy on its 100 millimeter, also increased HP by 150. Okay. This one I'm okay with. I'm actually quite a fan of that. ISM, its 122s are all getting some changes to aim time and reload. SU-14-2, this is another artillery getting a 30-meter view range buff, as well as its 152 getting accuracy and reload. I'm actually not sure if that's the Top Gun. LTTB, I could check, but whatever. It's artillery. Who gives a crap? Sorry. LTTB only has one turret, just like the MT-25, and has two 85mm guns, so these are its top guns and top turret. Its top gun getting accuracy, reload, and aim time. ISU-152 getting a view range buff by 20mm as well, and buffs to its stock 152 and 122, nothing to its top 152. T-44 getting quite a lot of changes. Max HP by 50 on both of its turrets, so 1350 for the T-30 or T-44, sorry. Its 100 millimeters also getting accuracy, reload, and aim time on its top gun. On to Tier 9. The stock turret and stock gun of the 257 is getting a reload buff, so cool. Moving on to something more substantial. The 705 is also getting, wait a minute, 122mm reload buff, so nothing on its 130. So these, not really that big of a change. And for the T10, it does have a 122mm, but it's got 3 of them, and neither of these two 122mm are its top gun, so these again are pretty mid changes, but they are insanely quick reload times, but I'm pretty sure that's because they come with different alpha damages as well, 390 to 440, right? 212A, another artillery piece, getting an accuracy, aim time, and reload buff on a 152, which I don't believe is its top gun, and I'm not going to check because it's artillery, so I don't care. Just artillery buffs piss me off. T-54, 100mm are getting some aim time and reload, accuracy and reload on its top turret. IS-32, the double barrels are actually getting nerfed, and you can see that with the reload times getting nerfed on the 100 mils. The 122s aren't getting a reload nerf, except for the top one, which is getting a reload nerf. And you can see here, all fire mode, I believe that's the double fire mode, right? Is getting a cooldown increase. So when you fire both shells, you don't start reload immediately. You have to do this cooldown, and that's going from 3 to 3.5 seconds. Auto advanced mode, I believe, might be the single fire mode. By these names, that's what they sound like, right? Is going, instead of a 4-second intro clip, it's going to 4.5, which doesn't really change your burst potential, but this reload is what changes your burst potential. Although you can see you won't be reloaded anymore by the time you get your next shell in, or your third shell in. So the burst damages are changing, which is nice because it's something that I thought was insanely powerful with these things. But I think the biggest thing I thought was insanely powerful was being able to hold your double shot forever instead of having to charge it up like PC does. At the same time, they're nerfing these though. The Rogodorn gets to keep its double barrel 500 alpha damage gun in the state that it is, because that's not getting changed. So yay! But anyway, with its top 122, you can see similar changes. And I'll be honest with you, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember the intro clip being 5.5. So I don't know if these are swapped, but you know, all fire mode makes it sound like double fire, right? Auto advanced makes it sound like, you know, you automatically advance to the next gun. I don't remember the intro clips being this long, but I might be wrong. And if I look at Tankopedia, it's just going to tell me the same thing. Actually, I don't even think Tankopedia has these values. So anyway, on to Tier 10. The 277 was hinted at right? And I was hoping for more than just terrain resistances and max HP, and the max HP is only going to 2300. I was hoping for maybe an upper plate buff for the 277. That's what I was hoping for. K91 is actually getting an accuracy buff, and that's like virtually it to of note. So okay. ST2, similar changes here. Its accuracy is going down. Its reloads going down by 1.2 whole seconds and 2 seconds on your auto advance mode. So this is going to change your burst capabilities, right? And we can quickly do some maths, right? With the old reload, right? Your burst potential was obviously 440 times 3, which is 1320, plus, and then you add your DPM, right? Because once you go through your burst, you're then set on a single fire with that reload time. So once you're on reload, your DPM becomes 2112. And now your DPM is going to become 1927. And that burst damage usually took 12.5 seconds because it would be your first shot and then your second shot. And then by the time you're reloaded, your third shot, that's your burst for 12.5 seconds. Now it's going to take 13.7 seconds to get through 1320 burst damage. And then you're going to have DPM less than 2000. So this is a big substantial nerf to the ST2. And this was a tank. This is a tank that I had a problem with, but I didn't have a problem with the DPM after the fact of the burst. So like maybe this didn't need to happen, the DPM part. I had a problem with how easy it was to double shot. You didn't need to charge it up. You could literally just hold it out. And there is seemingly a bigger penalty now before you get to start reloading, and then your reloads take even longer, so it is going to be less beneficial to double shot now. So like this I see as like an acknowledgement of an issue, but not the correct solution to the issue, is what I'm seeing it as. Especially since the Rogodorn's not getting the same treatment. To me, that's an even bigger issue. But yeah, this one's interesting. Let me know what you guys think about this one, because this one I'm like, I don't know how I truly feel about it. Because I had a different issue than just this. This kind of helps, but it also, I don't know. Again, I think it's fine. But also not. It's hard for me to articulate exactly what I see wrong with it. But moving on to the premiums, you have your Tier 2 Morizoko, your BTSV, getting a view range buff by 30 is the biggest thing there in my opinion. T29 in the Ironclad version, also getting HP, view range, and reload, aim time, and accuracy. BT7 Artillery getting view range, also HP, accuracy, and aim time. Same with its skinned version. BT5, forgot this thing even existed. 20 more HP, 15 more view range, aim time, and reload. T116 Christmas tank, getting some stuff. LTP and its Christmas version, getting accuracy, aim time, and reload. Horsepower, HP, and view range. M3 Light, getting view range, reload, accuracy, aim time. And see, here's another huge one. Accuracy 0.45 71428571428572 0.43. Interesting, right? And here we get into some ones that I'm like, whoa, really? We're buffing the A32? Accuracy by a lot, aim time by not that much, reload by quite a bit, HP by quite a bit. And same with the Valentine 2. Its reload's going from 2.285714 to 1.8. That's a very quick reload speed for a very good tank. And then we jump from low tiers to tier 8 with a Motherland buff, getting a reload time of 0.2 second buff, a rotation speed of 44 on its turret and its chassis, so they match now. T-54 first prototype is the unskinned Motherland, if you didn't know that. ISU 130. HP here says 220 to 260. That's not its actual HP value. You see here max health on its hull is 880 to 1040. I'm pretty sure you add those, potentially, so that it gets 1300 if you add those, right? Which means it went from what? It went from 1100 to 1300. And you can see that's matched here with the HMH version not having the split values, which is odd, right? And they're also both getting aim time and reload time, but the HMH version is also getting an accuracy buff. Now the IS-3 Auto is getting 80 more horsepower, some aim time, and also 10 meters view range, like the IS-3, which got 20. This one gets 10. Okay. And then the Fatherland is the skinned version of that tank, so same stuff. Stockade is the autoloader version, and it's just getting the horsepower. STG is getting 15 meters view range to have 385, which is an interesting value, as well as 100 more horsepower, and that goes for the Guardian STG as well. And we had a little bit of a prediction of what tanks were going to get buffed in this list, and I said the 780, because the 780 was a tank given away for free that didn't get buffed afterwards. And so I was thinking that it would, and here it is. Yes, the 780 is going also from 22 to 2300 HP, much like the 277, and it's getting a reload buff of 14 to 13. This one I'm actually okay with. I'm going to try out the 780 as well. So personally for me, I got to try out the E5, the MBTB, the 780, the Pershing, the Roswell, and what else was there? The 120mm Patton, as well as the regular Patton. Maybe some of the Russians, the 277 for sure, even though they only just gave it HP and virtually nothing else. But yeah, that's World War II. Again, the biggest thing I was looking for was the Pershing buff. Other than that, I'm a bit disappointed at the 420 alpha changes for the Americans. Personally didn't want it. Personally don't like it. E5 2400 HP is quite questionable to me. As well as the unnecessary Manticore nerf. Of all the light tanks to nerf, you nerf the Manticore and not the 100 LT. Baffles me. Yeah. I'm going to have to play the Sheridan as well, now that I'm thinking about it, with its reload buff and HP buff. But yeah, interesting changes overall. I think I said this at the beginning of the video, but I think this is the worst update balance pass of the year. So it being the final wave, it was the worst. There's a few in there that I'm happy about. Like I said, the Pershing, the 780 I'll take, right? And can I think of anything else? Not really. I guess the T44 and the STG, like those are nice. K91 was cool to mention, but you did nothing with it, so okay. Yeah, I just think a lot of it, and there was too many artillery as well. Too much artillery in this. The Frenchies only had like 3 artillery. The British line, like it was what, tier 2 to tier 7. Even a lot of Russians got changes. Luckily, a lot of them were stock guns though. But yeah, personally, I think this list was pretty lackluster. But it's not done, because right here we have all Cold War balance changes. Now, this one I'm going to really skim through because, you know, I don't play the mode, but I feel obligated to at least tell you that the ship barn is getting nerfed. Woo! Some moving and still concealment nerfs. Very good. Very, very good. Right? That's very good. Especially with being able to hold smoke screens, making your camo really, really good. Some rotation speed nerfs. Some accuracy and aim time nerfs on both guns for the first turret at least. Wait. Turret 2. Wait. The gun changes only matter on the first turret. The second turret's not getting anything. for the guns. Oh, that's upsetting, isn't it? Unless I'm somehow reading this wrong, but I don't believe I am. For its engines, it's actually getting some forward speed nerfs, but not enough in my opinion. 52 is still way too fast. Also some reverse speed nerfs, which is, I mean, I guess 18.5 is fine, but personally I think you remove engine 3 and you have these speeds and you're good to go, right? Remove engine 3. Is it just me, or remove engine 3 on the shit barn and you got a good concealment nerf. If these gun changes only matter on the stock turret, you didn't do much to change the gun now, did you? You just had it here to be like, hey, we touched the gun! But not when you fully upgrade the turret. Alright, moving on. Canonian Jagdpanzer 4.5 getting some buffs. I presume it's an underplayed tank because it is a Era 1 tank destroyer. Same with the SU-122-54 getting similar treatment. It is slightly getting a camo buff. Some view range by 30. Some rotation speeds, max elevation by quite a bit. That's good. It's also getting better left and right gun arc, as well as its 122s, both of them getting accuracy and reloads. And its engine is having a better reverse speed, so you can get out of danger much quicker. But they're doing a lot to the free Era 1 tanks, the 0 silver starting tanks, and a lot of it has to do with HP values. So your Centurion Mark II now goes all the way up to 1850. We're moving on to the Chaffee before we go to the other free one. It's getting signal. A lot of them also are signal range changes, which who gives a crap. But it's stock turrets. I'm not sure. I believe it gets an upgraded turret. I'm not going to check though. Accuracy and aim time on both of them. The stock turret or the stock M46A1 Patton gets a new turret 2 with 1800 HP. And then again, signal ranges. And the M47 Patton gets a turret 2 new of 1900 HP. So that's neat, isn't it? What's funny is that the M4A5 Patton PL is going to stay at 2000 in Cold War, but it's 2050 now in World War II, so that's funny. Type 63-1 getting a lot of changes, but again, most importantly, you can see those HP increases, view range as well to 510, and some accuracy, reload, and aim time on its top gun on its top turret. Type 62 also getting view range changes, no HP changes though, and on its top gun on the top turret. Accuracy, reload, and aim time. Type 62-1, same similar case, except the view range is only for the stock turret, not the top turret. IS-3M getting view range buffs. Funny, man, just funny how much view range is in Era 1, despite it being close to to World War II, and then you got 430 view range heavy tanks in Era 1. Despite having true vision, but let me not get into a ramble. That'll be for another video. Cold War's got some weird balances issues and some weird defenses from the player base that I'm not going to get into. Don't get into it, Cone. Save that for another video. Anyway, reload time on its top 122 on its turret. And then the IS-4M's actually getting nerfed. Already they felt it was too strong, so they're lowering its HP to 2400 again. It has 25 in World War II. Reload times are getting nerfed, as well as aim time on its top gun on its top turret. So that's interesting to see. I guess people were doing way too good in it already. PT-76 getting some view ranges on its stock turret, but not its top turret. And then its 57 and 76 millimeters are getting some changes. That's interesting that it even had a 57 millimeter. I didn't know that. T-44A, the stock Russian tank, getting max health of 1750. I presume this is turret 2 new because they're not showing changes like they do with turret 1, 14 to 1550, and then 1750 on turret 2, and signal ranges, 460 view range, and 50 Sherman, the stock Independent Alliance tank, signal ranges, max health to 1800, and on its guns, accuracy and aim time on the version 2. TVP VTU 88 millimeter is also the stock tank for the Czech-Romanian line, and its HP is going from 1500 to 1850, which is quite a lot. The reason you don't see the Bat Chat on this list, because this is the end of the list, is because the Bat Chat already had a lot of HP to begin with. It was the highest HP tank when it came out for bottom Era 1 tanks, and now they're just aligning all the other bottom Era 1 tanks. What does this mean? Is this a good change? You could see it as a good change, but all it means is that new players will have more HP to give away to veteran players playing at the top of Era 1. Lamau? Um, that's your cynical way of looking at it, but for me, that's a big issue in my opinion. It does make it feel though more close to the top air tanks, so you have more of a competitive feeling, I suppose. But yeah, you're still bottom air tanks with uh, worse DPM penetrations and all that stuff. So having more HP to give to them may seem nice at first, but anyway, that is it for the balance changes. Of course, there's more garage gear, and here are some issues addressed that you can pause and read. AP, here's a big one that I'll point out. APDS and APFS DS shells can now travel through destructible objects. I was playing Cold War recently because I was paid to, not because I wanted to. And that was a big issue that I had is as for playing World War II a lot, I was shooting through soft objects where I knew there was enemies behind that I could kill, right? Or I could shoot. And because I had APDS and APFSDS rounds on the British heavy tank line, I found you actually can't shoot through soft cover. So I was having a big problem with wasting rounds and then constantly having to remind myself, this is Cold War, this isn't World War II, you can't shoot through soft cover with that stuff. But now you can, so that's a big one that I will definitely point out here. As well, here are some tank changes that aren't balance changes, but instead visual changes. And here are some similar map changes. But yeah, there you go. That is the balance changes. Let me know what you guys think down below. What do you think about all the balance changes? Do you like the American 420 Alpha changes? Personally, I don't. Are you happy with the Cold War changes? Do you like what they did to the shit barn, or do you think that having the turret 2 not change the guns is still an issue? Do you agree that they should remove the engine 3? I personally think they should. What do you think about the HP increases on some American tanks as well? What do you think about the artillery changes? What do you think about the Russian changes? What do you think about the British changes? Let me know down below, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good new season start tomorrow. Again, don't forget to pick up the season starter pass when it comes out. And thanks for watching. Take care.